Terraria is known for having a huge range of weapons spanning the melee, ranger, mage, summoner, and throwing class. Some weapons are extremely useful and can make your adventures lots of fun, and some weapons, however, are extremely underpowered. How's it going, crew? This is Happy Days, and today we're looking at 5 of the worst weapons in Terraria 1.3. Now, before we get started, I want to point out that I'm not talking about the weakest weapons. Otherwise, you'd simply list a bunch of starter weapons with low damage. No, I'm talking about weapons that when you get them at any stage of the game, they're almost always worse than what you will currently have. With that said, let's get started. Kicking off our list today are the Pearlwood Sword and Bow. When you first defeat the Wall of Flesh, a hollow biome is created, turning regular trees into Pearlwood trees. Pearlwood can be used to craft the same types of things, including swords and bows, and whilst they are the strongest wooden weapons in the game, they are massively underpowered compared to anything else available at the start of hard mode. Still, if you're doing the challenge where you start a new character in hard mode, it may be a good idea to grab some Pearlwood quickly. If you've ever done a gunslinger playthrough, you'll know how powerful the Mega Shark is for a large part of hard mode. The Venus Magnum, however, a weapon acquired from Plantera, struggles to keep up with the raw damage output of the Mega Shark, which can be acquired as early as you can defeat the Destroyer. When you begin to use clarified bullets, which most gunslingers eventually do, the Venus Magnum's measly 13 damage advantage over the Mega Shark simply isn't enough to outweigh the speed and auto-fire capabilities of the Mega Shark. Being a Magnum, one of the most powerful handguns in the world, I'd recommend a decent damage boost to make it a viable alternative to most auto-firing guns in hard mode. Fighting the hard mode mimics can be a great way to snag some early weapons to help explore your new hard mode world. The Hallowed Mimic, in my opinion, drops one of the best and one of the worst weapons in the entire game. The Daedalus Stormbow is an absolutely insane bow that can be used all the way to the Vortex Pillar when you can craft the Phantasm. The Crystal Vial Shard, however, is one of the most underpowered magic weapons at the starter hard mode. With a measly 19 base damage, this weapon can barely scratch most hard mode enemies and needs significant reforging and armor benefits to become somewhat usable. It can attack through blocks, however, so if you want to tackle some early pirate invasions, this could help you if you hide in a box and fire through its walls. This weapon needs a damage buff to be a viable magic option, in my opinion. I'm sure many of you have found a flare gun in a new world. It can light up dark areas and help you explore by firing flares into the darkness. As a weapon, however, this gun is nearly useless at the start of the game. If you've tried to play a gunslinger before, you'll know you can't craft a starting gun, so most players will try and pick up a flare gun to get started. Even worse, the flare gun doesn't qualify to get the arms dealer to move in, so you can't use it temporarily to get the arms dealer and then buy better guns off of him. Like the other weapons on this list, a damage buff to the flare gun would help make it a more viable option in the early game. Now, before we announce our number 1 spot, I want to acknowledge that doing honorable mentions in this video is nearly impossible, as there's so many different weapons that arguably could be on this list. Instead, I'd love to invite all of you to share in the comments your number 1 worst weapon in Terraria and why. In the Terraria 1.3 update, the developers released an early game mage weapon to help magic users start their journey. It's called the Wand of Sparking, and I think most people in our community agree that it is practically useless even as a starter weapon. The Wand of Sparking has 2 major drawbacks. Firstly, it doesn't have knockback, meaning you're likely to take damage when using this weapon. On expert mode, this can get you killed in 2 or 3 hits. Secondly, on your first day in Terraria, your character has a measly 20 mana, meaning you can only fire this weapon 10 times before having to stand still for a few moments to get your mana back. A solution could be to give this weapon some minor knockback or reduce the mana cost to 1, giving the player more opportunities to deal damage while kiting and avoiding enemies. This was a really fun video to make, and it's interesting to look at the weapons we use in Terraria and ask ourselves why we never use some of those weapons. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. If you're still looking for something to watch today, why not continue to binge on my top 5 videos? We've got heaps of different ones to watch. And here's the most important part, as always, you'll stay happy and I'll see you soon. This is Happy Days signing out. See ya!